that started. So this webinar is about TipWeb IT and what happens at the site level when we're using TipWeb IT. So what do we do at the site? We transfer tags from one room to another. We transfer tags maybe from one site to another. We issue items out to staff and student members. We search the database for information. We report information out from the database to our stakeholders. So there's a lot going on at the site level that starts to flow really well once the administrative site is set up and working. So I want to verify real quick. Let's see how this works. I'm going to start a poll. There we go. So if you guys would answer the poll, and at the same time, just kind of let me know. You can either in the chat or just say, hey, yeah, you can hear me okay, you can see my screen okay. Cool, thank you. So can somebody verify that you can hear me? Everybody can hear me okay?
Hear you.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Can you guys hear me?
I can.
Thank you.
Okay,
can.
cool. So we have a good group of folks today. Are you all from the same district? In that poll. And share the results. So you can see that for the most part, you guys are really interested in issuing and collecting assets of students and staff. It's very common for the site view training because it's something we're focusing on, especially with COVID, right? The whole thing is we need to know who has what as far as our resources are, because they're really not on campus anymore. So that's really common. And then transferring the assets around the building and across sites, searching and reporting for information. So we're going to cover that stuff definitely. I always like to ask the question though, because it makes me be sure to focus in where we need to focus in. So in a way of introduction, those of you who have never met me, my name is Gina Blankenship. I'm a trainer and consultant for Hayes Software. I've been doing this for about 2.5 years. And prior to that, I was the director of technology for a school district in New Mexico, a relatively small district. We had an average of about 5,500 students and 12 to 15 buildings, depending on what was happening, because we kind of spread out all over town with the administrative team. So that was an interesting position that I really loved because I got into so many areas of education, being in the middle of the technology piece. And I got to grow the team also from the day they started the team through my retirement. That's what I did. So then as far as Hayes goes, we were customers of Hayes. We used TipWeb IT. It was one of the best applications that I felt we ever implemented as far as keeping track of our inventory, knowing what was where. It was amazing. It was really well organized for the school district environment. So I really liked it, which made me kind of create this relationship with Hayes. So it gave me something to do after retirement. So I do this now on a part-time basis. Now, I may or may not do this. It depends. If you guys are totally silent and don't respond to me or let me know that you're even out there, then I'll probably start using Annotate and making you stamp the screen just so that I know you're existing. Otherwise, I really prefer just to talk back and forth and ask questions. So I'm hoping that that's what we'll do. But if you guys fall asleep on me, I'll start making you play with your computer a little bit. So we'll use Zoom Annotate. You can pick a stamp that you like, and then I'll ask questions like, what do you think we're going to do here? Stamp the area of the screen that makes sense, and that just so that I know you guys are out there. So what are we going to do? We're going to take a look at what we do with TipWeb IT anyway. Application overview being, what what do the screens look like on the dashboard, navigation, how does navigation work? And then we're going to dig into how we're actually building the foundation of the database. Most of that is done at the administrative side of things, but there are some specific things pertaining to foundational tables that happen at the site level. So we'll take a look at those, and then we'll dig into how we actually manage inventory and search and build reports. So what is the reason that we have TipWeb IT? Number one is it gives just transparency and oversight to manage your district asset inventory. So that's the big umbrella, right? Within TipWeb IT, we just have so much ability to know where those tags are. We add tags, dispose of them, depending on your district process. That may look a little different. We're gonna be receiving sites from other tags, sorry. We're gonna be receiving tags from other sites from time to time. We're recording a location of every asset, right? So it can be in a room or in the hands of a staff or student member. And this is where this application stands out from others in that it allows these 3 different ways to handle your inventory. So you're not stuck to just one of them. And then collecting assets. And during the collection process, we can assess damages if that's what your district does for lost, damaged or stolen or lost equipment. And then conducting audits. So we're being great stewards of the inventory of the money that we spend in our district. And the audits kind of wrap that all up and show us that we're doing it right. So that's kind of the overview there. And so I want to move into the actual application. Get that stuff out of the way. Let me zoom in there. So I'm logged in right now to the training database as a site administrator. So those of you that logged in with that site admin information, and if you need that again, I think if you logged into the meeting after I posted the chat, you might not be able to see that information. So I can put it back in the chat if anybody needs it.
I don't think I got it. If you could add it back in, please.
Okay, let me do a quick copy paste here. And just put that back in the chat again. So you have an easy, quick link. And then use your password. Okay, so that should get you there. So I'm looking at the dashboard, and you notice that I'm at a specific site called Charles Bailey High School. I think that you guys, the account that I gave you will bring you right into Learning Campus, which is where most of our assets are in this training database anyway. The only thing that made a difference there is I have access, I gave my account and yours access to 3 sites in the district: Learning Campus, Learning Middle School, and Charles Bailey High School. And on my account, Charles Bailey High School was the first one in my list because I just went down and did it alphabetically. So if you are looking, if you're an administrator setting up user accounts, or you're looking at your own account and you're thinking, well, I do have access to those other sites, but I really work at this one and I want to log into this one when I sign in, then the administrator who creates your account just needs to put that campus on the top of your list. And that's the one you will default to log into. So everything we see in this login will pertain to the site that we're on, that we have access to. The menu down the left side, so site tools, these quick links are always going to be there. They're very much specific to what we do most often at the site. Let me see if I can get my bar to go down here and stop popping up on us. And then the transfer tools, those are also going to be static tools, and they're about transferring assets from one site to another. So we do internal transfers room to room. Those are up here in site tools. Transfer tools talk about transferring tags from one site to another site, and also if your district has a warehouse set up, then the request transfer is a way that you can kind of see what kind of inventory is available in the warehouse and what you might be able to request be brought to you on your site. So it just kind of depends on how your district is set up, whether or not you'll be using that one. Then we have the link to the support center. So there, occasionally we'll put our support center on a different platform. And if you have a shortcut to it somewhere, that might break the shortcut. This one will always take you to the latest version of our support center. So on the support center, you're able to do keyword searches or go in by category, or maybe look for a specific type of article or process. That way, really importantly, down all the way to the bottom of the site, you'll see the phone number and email address for actually starting a support ticket within our system. Everyone in the district has access to the support team. So don't be shy about calling us and asking questions or shooting us an email. That will start a ticket as well. The team, it's an excellent support team. They're good at getting back very quickly. Most tickets are solved very quickly. Some end up being feature requests or turn into some little bug that has to be fixed in the application. But for the most part, they're going to be solved very quickly. So don't feel shy about calling tech support. The mobile IT setup. So there is a mobile application in the App Store for Apple, as well as the Google Play Store for Google for Android. It's called TipWeb IT. That needs to be put on this screen, I think. It's called TipWeb IT with RFID. So even if you're not using the RFID abilities within the application, that's the app you're going to be looking for. That's the one that we're developing. So if you stumble across something that doesn't say with RFID, just leave that one alone and pick the RFID one. Basically, you will need to be logged into your computer first. And then when you launch the application, it's going to ask for you to scan this code that is right here. So you'll log into the application, and that will basically configure the QR code for your login and such for your site and all of that. So you'll download the app and then log into your computer and start with the steps here. Now the application, the app is still a little limited. Right now, there's room-to-room transfers, there's audit things, and there's lookup, so you can look up the information about a tag. We're working on that all the time. There's always some features coming on board for that application. It's in development. So if there's something you really want to see, let us know. You guys drive the development. Another support link all the way up on the top right-hand corner of the screen next to your profile is this help link. This particular resource I like because it just works for my brain. I like it over the support center, although I use both of them. I use this one a lot. It's just an online book, basically. User manual, kind of old style, think user manual with the table of contents on the left. So I can just kind of click through these different subjects and find what I'm looking for. So we're looking at site view stuff today. So here, basics on site view. Oh, let's take a look at the overview of the dashboard, right? So we're looking at that. What's the dashboard layout look like and so on. How do I do room-to-room transfer? If I don't remember how to do that, I can also search. If I don't want to click through, I can do a keyword search. And when I do that, I'll get any article that has those keywords in it. So that first one on top there was room-to-room transfer. There's my step-to-step process, step by step. These I like. They're short, they're sweet. I don't have to spend a lot of time reading a whole bunch of back end stuff. I can just come get a step-by-step. How do I do that? And then always take a look at what's in the notes portion here, because these are like, things you might need to consider when you're doing the process that's written step by step. So this is a great resource that I still use all the time. As a customer, I used it a lot as well. Okay, so looking at the dashboard. So we're going to move into the center of the dashboard. You see we have 4 very distinct quadrants on this dashboard. Each quadrant has a report that it previews for you. You have the ability to change this around to make it what you want to make it. I really like the notifications report, and I like it to be up here in the right-hand corner because it's kind of like a to-do list, front and center. I like it front and center. So I can change this panel to have that report in it by clicking on the gear in the upper right-hand corner of the panel, and then just drop down. All these reports are pre-configured. They're canned reports that you choose from. So at this point, you can't really customize a report for the panel. There are some that have filters in them that help a little with the customization, but the layout of the report itself is very much already configured for you. So I want this to be the notifications panel. And so then I have the notifications panel up there. And so now I have this area in the bottom left I might want to do something different with. So I can pick any of these other reports that make sense to me, like what I want. So I do like that status breakdown. So I'll put that one back down there in that corner. So whatever you like, these are profile dependent. So whatever you do with your dashboard, that won't affect anyone else that's logged in. Notice in this inventory statistics panel, which I love this one, I'll leave it up because it's really a quick way to see how well I'm doing with my real-time information. So I can see that at Learning Campus, I have 4,012 tags or assets. And between those 4,000, there's 2,845 that are in the status of available, which tells me I'm probably not doing a good job of keeping up with the correct status. If I have done a good job, then I have a problem because I'm not using a lot of stuff that's in my inventory. We want to use everything we can possibly use in order not to waste those funds, right? So I love this quick view. It tells me maybe I need to go in and make sure that my assets are being recorded correctly. So that's the dashboard. That's what we can do. If you need to change, if you're not a single sign-on district, and you need to change something like your password or contact information, you would go into the profile settings here and take care of that here. Single sign-on, you always go back to the source of the sign-on. Okay, so that is the boring little overview. So let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about building the foundation of your database. At the site view, the foundational pieces, some of them are already created for you. So the catalog is one of those foundation pieces that are done at the administrative side. When I click on catalog up here in the main navigation panel, I'm going to see a listing of all the products that exist at my site. And what the catalog does is it provides me with a list of those products. So each and every model numbered product has its own record in the database, and it helps us to summarize all those so that I know exactly how many of these 17-inch Acer monitors with that very specific model number that I have at my site. So we go all the way over here and we see that there are 60 in my site of those particular monitors. The catalog helps us to stay very standardized in how we refer to or call our products that are in our database. And it's just that categorization or summarization of the products. This is not necessarily where we would see individual asset tags and serial number kind of things. It's more of a summarized. While we're here, this is the first time we've opened up the grid view here. So our grid is going to be laid out the same across the application. So every time I go into one of these up here, I'm going to see this very similar grid. So the field names in blue up here can be clicked to sort your records A to Z, and then click again, goes to Z to A. So it's pretty common. We have the search bars here, the white areas, so keyword searches for those that don't have drop downs. And then for drop downs, we can just go and pick from the list. So this is all about filtering records or sorting records. Then the grid itself is each individual record. If I want to look, let's say, oh, we have 10 of these 30 unit laptop storage carts in my site, I can drill down and get a little bit of information from here about where they're at. So I can click anywhere on the line or on the little caret on the left, it doesn't matter. And I get a little summary that opens up. So by default, I come to the inventory tab. And so my inventory shows that it's all in a location of rooms. We're going to talk about locations. And one is in use, the other 9 are available. And then I have some other things I might see if I have tags categorized as auctions or disposed and so on. And then under the actions tab, I have a little folder icon there that is basically giving me the option to find a little more information or a little more detail on that inventory. So I know they're in rooms. Now I can see which rooms they are in. Notice I still haven't seen a specific tag. So I'm not looking at, oh, that cart with tag number 2553 is in room 20. I don't really know that at this point. I just know there's one of those carts in the room. And then this particular action will do me a real quick, it'll switch me over to the room view for room 20 and I can drill it even farther. I'm not gonna do that right now because we're gonna look at rooms in a minute. But this is one of the quick ways to navigate to rooms. If we just happen to be here and we want to, it gives us a quick way to navigate to the room. Please know that just clicking through these records, it's just one way to get information. It's certainly not always the fastest way. And it's not the only way to get to the same information in the application. Now, notice at the bottom of the grid, we have the pagination buttons, I guess you would call them. And so I can jump from one page to another. I can also change the number of records that's showing on my page. 10 for me is a little claustrophobic. I like to change it to at least 20 so that I can see more stuff on the grid when I'm in there. It gives me the ability to take care of some stuff. Let's say I want to know, oh, what kind of laptops do I have at my site? I can go ahead and filter by product type of laptop. And I can start to type laptop there or just scroll down. It doesn't matter which way I go. And I'm just going to see those products that are categorized in the product type of laptop. So it kind of filters the rest of the stuff out so that I can get a good look at what kind of laptops I have in my building. Notice they're different manufacturers, even different operating systems, but they are all laptops. So it tells me when I go to search my building, if I go to ask that question, how many laptops do I have in the building? I want a listing of every asset that is considered a laptop. I'm going to get all of these on a list with just one search. Now in the upper right-hand corner of every grid is this drop down for reports. These reports are also pre-configured or canned reports. And they're going to pertain specifically to this area. So I'm in the catalog. My reports are all going to be related to catalog stuff. So I can get a product catalog report that happens to be a PDF file. This lists the products, and it's only going to show me the laptops because I had that filtered. Right? If I don't filter the records first, I'm going to get the whole group of records. But since I filtered them, now I'm seeing product information about laptops. And we can see that that filter is in place here. I can also use the more filters report up here to get to some other options. There's other fields. So if I'm looking specifically at, I want to see laptops that, have a 5-year life in our district or something to that effect. I can change that filter here. So the catalog, it just gives us a little quick view of those products. And if we've added images to the database, we even get a cool little image here. So that's a cool report if you need it. Other reports under the Excel category, these are all going to be extractions. So inventory value by product type. I've got the laptops filtered. So when I pull that particular report, I'm going to get a value. It's going to be a spreadsheet. And they're all going to be lumped together. Because I'm at Learning Campus and I filtered by laptop, I just have one line item. If I hadn't filtered by laptop, I would get them all for Learning Campus split up. So there's 311 laptops at Learning Campus and they're worth 220,000 plus. So that's kind of what those reports do. They're going to be different for each grid that we're in, but they're all there. So if you're wondering about reports, that's the first little peek into reports that we have, that every single grid has its own set of reports. You guys are welcome to play around there, and even in your own database. This is a great way to get familiar with the data that's in your database. And in the beginning, they can help you find little inconsistencies in your data as well. So the next piece is purchasing. Purchasing is not part of the foundation. Purchasing is more, when we start talking about inventory management and entering new assets, so best practice of getting brand new assets into the system is through the purchasing grid. Now you need to discuss this with your district leadership because most of our districts do the PO entry from the administrative side. So that means this becomes just kind of an FYI for me. I only see purchase orders that generated assets from my site. So I can dig and say, oh, what did we purchase with this PO 3256? Well, I can click on that record. It expands out to the products listing, which is kind of like a line item on the PO. And I can see that we purchased some Lenovo Chromebooks from our technology fund. There were 110. We've ordered them, but they have not been received yet. We also ordered some Hayes Infinity laptops, also from the technology fund. We ordered 15 of those. All 15 of those have been received and shipped. Now, shipping is all internal. It's not talking about, oh, we got those from Hayes, they sent them out. No, we're talking about they were shipped or sent to the sites they were supposed to go to within the system. So if I wanted to know what I got from these 15, I can click on that line, drill down even a little bit farther to see how many of those 15 laptops actually ended up at my site. So Learning Campus got 11 out of the 15. The others went somewhere else. There's lots of ways for me to find this information. This is one of those ways, and I can continue to drill. I have this little report here. It's called a print ticket. So it's kind of like a purchasing ticket that shows me which tags I got and where they went in my site for this particular PO. You have to generate that first. So that particular report goes out to our report server and gets generated and then gets sent back to you. So the first click is going to generate the report, and then you'll have the icon change and you can actually click on it and see the report. Because some purchase orders can get pretty big, right? So we kind of offload that burden of building the report to improve the responsiveness of the application. It's still early for me, guys, so my words, I don't know. So this is just a little example of a purchasing ticket. It shows the PO number, it shows where this stuff is going to end up, and it shows the actual tags and serial numbers for the items that ended up at my site. And I can even see where they are or where they were assigned on that first assignment. So a couple are in the hands of people now, and then others are in our receiving room. So this is something, some districts might use this to verify for the finance team that they can pay the bill. So you may look at it and then disclose it, or you may actually have reason to print it. It's all about process. You may never even see this report. It's all about how your district processes things. So that's kind of what the purchasing grid does for you. So now we get to rooms, and rooms is our first big foundational table for your site level. This is where the work starts, where the rubber hits the road, basically at the site. So rooms grid is a representation of the physical spaces in your building. Every single space that you might want to put inventory needs to be defined in the rooms grid. So you can think of it as a building layout. Like if you happen to have let's see if I can find a quick example here. I shouldn't move things around on my computer, I tell you. Just think about a layout of your building. All right, so you have a floor plan. Maybe even you just have these emergency exit maps all over your building. So at least you have that little section. But in order to create the rooms, that's kind of where it starts. The first thing that you're going to do at the site level is make sure the rooms look good. So you may already have some rooms defined depending on how the data conversion process is done for your district. So if your district has historical data and they already know that these assets are in these rooms, then the rooms that they know about, the assets where they know this room is the right room, that room is going to be created for you as part of that data conversion process. And so you'll just need to come in and verify that they look right. But there's no data conversion that's going to get 100% of the spaces in your building added for you. So it's something you'll need to do. So my recommendation for you is grab a building layout from somewhere, and just use that drawing to go methodically through the building and make sure that you have some representation for it, some definition for each space in your rooms grid. And so that's the beginning. So I'm going to create a room. I'm going to go upper left-hand corner of the grid is always where you'll find the add record. So if I run across something that's not there, I'll click add a record and I'll create it. Now think of it as the physical location. So I have a question, how will the historical data be entered in? And I have to say it depends. So your district admin team is dealing with that part with their customer service manager and our R&D team, and they're building this first database. So if you're already in your database, that part's been done maybe, and you just need to start from where you've got it. Other districts have the historical information when they do data conversion process. They list every individual asset separately on a spreadsheet, and that asset will have a location. It's in a room. And so if the asset has a location in the data conversion spreadsheet, then that location will be created in your database. So it's a mixture. And if you can talk to your administrative team to see where they're at and what this might look like for you. But the idea is that you, in the end, you're going to want a nice list that shows every room in the building. And remember, it's a physical spot because when I do a room number, it can be alphanumeric. Best practice, what's the number on the door or in the hallway as you enter this room? What is that real number? Use that for the room number every time. But we all have these areas that are not marked, receptionist areas. So in my district, you'd walk into the elementary school, and then there's a counter and there's this big space behind, and the secretary might be there, and also a receptionist, and maybe even the nurse has got a computer off in the corner, or her room is back in there or something. So we can create those spaces as well, come up with a standardized naming convention for those rooms in your building that don't have a number. Like A, which tells you maybe that you had to assign a number to that area. You're not going to find it posted anywhere. And 01 through 99, that's probably enough numbers for you to have to set up your whole building. So let's say we're doing that. It's a receptionist area and we have no room number. So we're going to create our very first room that doesn't have a number in our building. So we're identifying that space. So the description there now, I'm going to go back and use the title of the person. Since this is a space, it's just kind of an open space. I'm going to use the title of the person that works there, not the person's name, because the name of the person that works there can change. And we have the ability to say, I'm going to tie this staff member to the room. That way you have less reason to change the room name later. So then this room type, notice I have a drop down to choose from. If you think you're missing something from this drop down, you'll need to contact your administration team, because room types are defined at the administrative level so that every site uses the same verbiage. So we all know that this room type is an office. Maybe I'm creating a storage room and I call it a storage room, but the school down the road calls it a closet. Then we have trouble searching the database because we don't have that standardization in place. So that room type is going to be created at that administrative level. Notice the red fields, those are the two required fields. So I don't have to have a room type, but I do suggest that you guys use room types. So I'm going to save that record, and that created a space that now I can take and assign my receptionist to. Now, the first question that I usually get is, what about when room numbers change? So do I have to create a brand new room, or do I deactivate that room, or can I delete that room? So edits for rooms are done with the little pencil on the left. So let's say I have a new principal and they want to renumber the rooms. They don't like the 2-digit room numbers. They're going to go for a 3-digit room number. So room 21 is going to be now referred to as room 210. It's still the same physical location. It still probably has the same inventory in it, at least in the beginning. So I can edit the room number and not lose the inventory that's listed in that room. So let's first look at the inventory that's listed in. So I'm going to just click on this record for room 21, and I'm going to get a summary. By default, when we click on a record, the record opens to whatever inventory tab, which makes sense because it's an inventory system. So I see the inventory tab for that room. I see a summary based on the product name. So I see again, oh, there's some of those 17-inch monitors that we saw in the catalog. There's a total of 20 of those in this room. So this is a summarized version of that list. I can drill down now because I'm in the room now. I can drill in and actually see which 20. I can click on this line anywhere. So if you see a caret on the right, that means you can coax a little more information out of this particular area of the database. And again, this is not the only way to find this information. It's just one way. So there I see the actual individual assets that are in this room and what status each one of them is in. If I need to change the room number, I can do that without losing any of this information. So I would just click the edit pencil. Sorry, I don't know why things are dragging. I'm even the only one home today too, so I'm not sure what's going on. So this is room 21. It's a second grade classroom. Think of it like GPS coordinates. It doesn't matter what we call this. It's always now going to be that exact physical location. And when I make changes, it's not going to affect the reporting in my system. So this could be room 210 now. It could even become a third grade classroom, but it's still the same exact physical location always. So there's another unique identifier in the background, basically, that you don't see that identifies that spot. So Anthony, what are some examples of what you would use the other field for? Well, other is always kind of in the eye of the beholder, I guess. So let's take a look at some of what we have here. If you just don't know how to describe a room and or you think, well, yeah, I could use this particular description, but there's not very many of them, so I can group them together as others because they're not as important, right? It just depends. I wouldn't use other unless I just couldn't figure out how else to do it. Because our room types are going to come into play when we do things like searches and audits. So I can audit the inventory. See, that's pretty vague room right there. So I can audit the inventory based on the room types. I can do an audit for all classrooms. Or I can do an audit for all offices. So other is not something I would create. Now room types, that particular list is blank when you get your database. So it's totally customizable to your district. So you create the room types based on what works for you at the district level. And then the sites use the list that you create for them. See, you found one of my OCDs. I wouldn't use other. I think it's a bad example. Let me refresh this screen real quick. So you can see we have classrooms, we have labs, we have different types of rooms, and that's great. Now, the last thing I want you to see about rooms, as far as the assignment goes, is staff assignments. Notice that most of the rooms here don't have a staff assignment. So one of them does, and I'll just open that one and show you that. So what the staff assignment does is it allows us to associate a room or a staff member with a room. I can associate multiple staff members to that room, or I could, and now I see that comment, Mandy, I think I answered the other question wrong, sorry. I could say that the staff member works in more than one room. So I could say right here, we have Alan Moore. He works here in room 30. Alan could also work in another room. He could be associated. Also, I could take and assign another staff member to this room. So this comes in really handy when we start looking at some reports that are available up here in our rooms grid and when we start doing audits. I'm going to come back to that other question because I was thinking other room type, and I'm thinking now Anthony was asking me other field. So you see some examples there: portable, West Wing. Mandy, like Mandy says, we identify a hall color because we use other, maybe we use hall colors for other things and we can do it there. So just some other identifier for that area that might be helpful. So the reporting side on the room inventory worksheet. Notice when I go to the room inventory worksheet, I get this question that comes up, says, do you want to include an inventory assigned to staff or student? And remember, asset tag can be assigned to a room, a staff member, or a student. This is staff only, sorry I said that. So if I have a staff working in this room, so Alan Moore works in room 30, and he has assets is issued to him specifically, do I want to see them as well in this worksheet? So this pulls those two, the room and the person, together so that I can look at a very complete worksheet. And because I did not filter this report first, I'm going to get it for every room. So we'll just kind of do a quick flip through so you can see what it looks like. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So this particular worksheet gives you a list of the assets that should be in that room, and a little spot where you can put a check mark or an initial. This is great for when somebody maybe is leaving the district. Notice it's 303 pages long. I certainly wouldn't print it unless I had it filtered first. So if I was just looking for room 30 and Alan Moore, I would have filtered the whole list just to that room and then run the report. And that would give me just for his room that listing and the ability to do it. So we have this column assigned to here. And so if any of these items are assigned to a person that was assigned to that room, then you would see that it's also on the list and would have their name. And there's like a million pages maybe before we see that room 30 but I think you get the gist. So this is a nice report for like an exit check. Somebody's leaving the district and you have to verify. Then there's several other reports there. So now let's look quickly at the staff student grids, and then we'll start looking at issuing and collecting. So your staff and student grids are identical with one exception. So what I can do in the staff grid, I can also do in the student grid. So it's a listing, right? These are a listing of our staff members. It comes from the integration with your student information system. So this is not something where you're going to have to go in. Oh, I don't have to go in and add all my staff or add all my student records. That comes right out of your student information system. So once I have that list, then I can see the records listed. If I were to open one of those records, I'm going to get a summary of what assets are issued to that person. That's my first tab, is the inventory tab. So Nile has 2 assets issued to her. One of them actually is in a status of loss. So we know it's not in her hands, but we know she was the last person to have it in their hands. So we also see if there are any charges for this person. So if Nile owes us any money, we'll see that here, and we'll get a little detail about it. And we also see if there are any attachments that pertain. Now, we're going to see what kind of attachments can be created over time as we start to do some other things. Now, the staff grid and the student grid, we can take action in this area, like issuing and collecting assets can be done from the staff or student grid. So I can go straight to Nile's record, go all the way to the right under the actions tab, and the very first action is issue inventory to staff. So if I click on that, I see my issue inventory window that pops up. It has Nile's name already populated in the form. And basically I just need to tell it which asset I'm going to issue to her. Again, this is one way to get to this window. It's not the only way. So we notice that Nile's in the form, this current inventory, this is about what Nile has issued to her already. I can put in a due date for what I'm going to issue to her and then enter the tag, and that would issue that inventory to her. We're going to see this window again at least 2 other times before we get really into it, but repetition sometimes, right? So I happen to be sitting here, I'm going to just a one-off issue something out to Nile. I can do it right from her staff grid. I can also get an inventory history report. That's the next action over. So if I want an inventory history for Nile, the next little icon over is that inventory history, and it just shows basically what she's had and what its current status is over time. I can look at a transaction receipt report, which basically shows me anytime she's had a receipt for issuing or collecting, if you do collection receipts. And then I can go to her charges with the little monetary thing, which I could also do the other way if you'll remember. So that's doing that from a staff. Student grid looks exactly the same way and operates the same way. The only difference is I can issue a bulk charge in the student grid. So let's say I want to look at what Brandon's got going on. He's got a lot going on, this Brandon kid. So I can just click on that record to open it. I see he's got 2 things issued to him. He also has a habit of racking up some charges, that Brandon. So we'll see he's got quite a list of charges on his record there that he needs to take care of pay-wise. You'll notice excellent question. The little A and the C in the blue boxes. So we're going to go back to the inventory tab and take a look at those. So every piece of inventory has some special, I'll just call them attributes at this point. So the A stands for accessory. So when I issued this HP tablet to Brandon, it came with accessories, 1 or more accessories. If I need to know what those accessories are, I can just hover over the A and I'll get a little list. I can say, oh, well, he not only got the tablet PC, he also got a 15-foot power cable, he got a nylon carrying case, and he got a stylus with that particular product. If I want to see what accessories came with his iPad, same thing. Just fly over it. I'll see exactly. And you see a quantity there. So you'll know if he got the accessory or not, because sometimes we don't hand him the case. It's shown as an accessory in the system, but we can maybe have a 0 there saying he didn't get one. So the other one is custom fields. I'm going to run back over to Nile because I know that one had custom fields. So custom fields are attributes that go directly with a product type. So laptops, maybe in this case, it's a Latitude 13 laptop. So product types of laptop also collect custom field information. So I can fly over that to see what the custom field is for this particular product. So in this case, the district is collecting information about when the last image was applied to this specific laptop. So that's a custom field. And you can have up to 4. So that list could get its up to 4 depending on what your district has configured. Great question, thank you. Okay, so the only other thing in the students grid that's different is the ability to apply a bulk charge. So when I go into the bulk charges, I can basically assess the charge to everyone in my filter. So right now, if you see in the background, I have 3,198 records. So if I assess a charge right now, it's going to go to all 3,198 of those students. So the district level, the administrative level sets up these charges, and then the sites use them or apply them. So if I'm going to put a calculator deposit on all 3,198 of these students, and have the ability here to change the amount, only because the charge is set up, giving the site the ability to change it. And then I can put some notes, like maybe this was for the 2021 school year. And then I would just go ahead and click on go. Very seldom do we have any kind of payment information as this process. So when I click go, that particular charge would be assessed to all the students that I had in my filter at the time. So that's kind of looking up information in a kind of slow, clicky way. And it's very valid in a lot of situations, but there's other ways to do that as well. So let's start talking about that specific issuing to staff and student process. Get some lists up over here. So on the right-hand side, no matter where I'm at, particularly in the grids up here, those site tools on the right, on the left, I'm sorry, I'm still directionally challenged. Over there, which probably in the mirror looks right to you guys, right, left, I don't know. It's over there, site tools. Issue to staff. So if I'm going to issue assets out to staff members, I click issue to staff. Notice we've seen this window before, right? It already had Nyla's name populated when we saw it before because we were in her record, but this time it's empty. Notice the big white space down here. So when I pick a staff member to issue this to, I can either type in a staff ID if I know the staff ID, or I can go ahead and search. So I'm going to issue something to Donna Armstrong and select her. Now, if I knew her staff ID was 1036 or she has some sort of a badge I can scan, I can do it that way as well. So now Donna Armstrong is in. So now my white space down here has her current inventory listed, which she has nothing at this point. So really, I'm just at the point where I need to decide if I'm going to put a due date on this or if I'm just going to go ahead and enter the tag or serial number. So let's say I'm going to give her a laptop and the tag number is 31502. So the search kind of gives me some, as I'm typing, it's giving me some suggestions. Hopefully you're using a scanner, so much more accurate, right? So here's this, here's that particular tag. If I didn't have the tag number, let's say I'm looking at the item and somehow or another the tag got ripped off, I could also search using that serial number and it would work as well. So I could start to type the serial number in. or I can scan the serial number. And the system's starting to give me some suggestions as I go. So there's my 5102 right there. And I can click on save. Now that's going to go ahead and issue that to Donna. It's done. I'm done. I've issued this particular Hayes laptop to Donna. It's on her record. And I'm still in the issue inventory. So I could move on to someone else. So in this case, maybe I have a line of staff members that came to get their new stuff. And so hopefully I can just scan their ID. Let's give something to Nile. I know her ID, so I'm just going to type it in. So as soon as we identify Nile, I have this in front of me and I'm going, oh, did you ever find that iPad? I have her in front of me. I have a reminder, right? Did you ever find that iPad? She can answer me and I can say, well, you know, if say I'm collecting a digital receipt, I can let her know that that iPad is going to still be on her list and she's going to have to sign on it. So now I'm going to go ahead and issue something out to Nile. Oops. If I had the scanner, it would just scan and go. So now we see that she also has this 31501. And I can move on to my next staff member. So it's pretty straightforward as far as that goes. Let's see, we'll give something here to Stephanie, and I'm going to make her have this due maybe in May. So she has to turn it back, or maybe she's just taking it for a couple of weeks. And so I scan the number and I'm done. So it's very quick, this issuing of tags from the issue inventory screen. Oh, I didn't hit enter. Oh, I did. Okay. So that's the issuing process. Now we can take that a step further and I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show you this process with the students. So that was staff, right? Issue inventory staff. Now, the only reason we have them split up over here is because one of them looks at the staff table and the other looks at the student table. So let's say all of my ninth graders are coming in to check out a device. And I've got it planned. The devices are back here. The students are coming in one by one. And of course, that's a little bit outdated reference because with COVID, we don't do that anymore, right? So maybe I'm actually out in the driveway putting things in their car. It doesn't really matter, but this is kind of like, we're just doing one right after the other. So I'm not necessarily gonna go into the students grid and look up the student and do it one at a time. I'm gonna use the site tools issue to students. And this is gonna work exactly the way we just did the staff. So how do I have the students in front of me? It just depends on your district. Maybe you're just going to search them by name. Maybe they have a badge you can scan. Maybe you have a list of barcodes already in like a 3-ring binder, so you can go straight to their name and scan. And one of the reports in the students grid is a barcode ID report that you could print yourself. So student ID. So right now I'm going to go ahead and issue out a few things to some students. We'll go with Brandon. I know Brandon's ID because I deal with Brandon all the time. So there's Brandon. Every student I check out with today is going to need to be bringing their stuff back at the end of the school year, which is for this district is going to be June 11th. So I'm going to lock that in place this time. Now, as long as I don't leave this window, that information will stay for all the students I add. So now I have Brandon in front of me. I'm going to remind him that he owes us quite a bit of money. And, you know, depending on your district, he may have to go deal with that before he actually gets something. But we're going to go ahead and give him something because we just feel like we should. Oh, that's probably not right. I got type crazy there. Let's try that again. This one is going to be 51916. There we go. So I issued to Brandon this Chromebook. Now, this is the way I showed you with staff, that works with students too. We could be done with Brandon right now, but we can also, if the district wants to, we can take this the next step and gather that digital signature. And you can do signatures with staff as well. I just wanted you to see that first step first a few times. So we now have issued this to Brandon. Before Brandon leaves, I'm going to collect a signature from him and upload a receipt also to his student account. So before he leaves, up in the upper right-hand corner of the grid here, I'm going to drop down this list and go into the full distribution receipt. Now the boilerplate piece of this receipt is created at the district level when they're setting up your database. So they will create this verbiage at the top. And then your logo will be plugged in, the campus and date will be plugged in by the system, and Brandon's name and information also by the system. And then it will be appended with the actual inventory that he just checked out, as well as anything that was previously on his list, because I did that full distribution receipt. So I see that he has that compact tablet PC. Here's the 3 accessories that we saw. We're going to remind him that he was supposed to turn that in a long time ago. Where is it? You know, but basically he's going to sign saying he still has these. Now our HP Chromebook product in the catalog did not have a picture, so there's no image there on that one. And it was just checked out to him with a due date of 6/11/2021, and there were no accessories checked out. So we're going to have him sign this receipt. Now we can do this lots of different ways. We can have a signature pad, or we can have Brandon just sign the screen or use a mouse. However you want to pick that up. We're going to gather that signature, and then the receipt will be re-rendered with the signature and date stamp included. So now we have Brandon's signature and the date on this receipt. And by default, it's going to also be uploaded to the attachments section on Brandon's student record. So one last step we could do before we leave here is we can email this receipt out as well. So if we don't have any email addresses. I was going to send it to one of you guys. I don't have them in front of me. So if we are inputting email addresses into the student information system for our students and our parents, then those email addresses will be brought into TipWeb IT as well as part of that record. And they'll be pre-filled. If for some reason you don't have an email address in like this, you can certainly plug in an email address. And if anybody wants to see a copy of what this receipt plus the email looks like, drop your email address in the chat box, and I'll just plug yours in right here, and you'll get a copy of it. But we can put an email address in there that actually updates. Okay, I only get 2 at a time, so that's good. I got 2. So that's going to be the, I'll grab a couple of yours for another receipt later, or someone could go ahead and forward. Okay, so one of you is going to get the parent email, and one of you is going to get the student email. They're very similar. One of them just says your distribution receipt. The other says your child's distribution receipt. So you're going to see there's 2 different parts to that, the receipt and the email body. And so I want you to really think about that email body. Is there something you can use that for, something else you can use it for besides just, hey, here's your receipt? Because this is one way we're going to make contact with students and parents. So when we do this, we could, if we're thinking about it and about what that email body looks like, we could occasionally change it up to include some other things. So I'll go ahead and can you set this up to auto generate and email? No, we have to click the email receipt button. So you have to say, I want to email this. Now, hopefully you have the email addresses in there, and it's just a matter of clicking email and clicking confirm. So it's pretty quick. I'm going to do one more of these because I have one more email address to send to. And then you also have the ability to update that student record if you noticed. With that email address, if you put something different, you can check mark here and it will actually update the student's record. So I'm done with Brandon and I can move on to my next student. So I'll show you, I'm going to walk through this one relatively quickly so you can see. Once you kind of get into a rhythm, you can see how quick you can do this. And so it just kind of depends right on your process. But once you have that process down, the whole thing can go pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and issue out to a student who I have the ID for it, sorry. That stayed there. The think if I have a scanner, I've already scanned that item. There's the item for her there. I'm going to get the full distribution receipt. I probably don't spend much time looking at it because I'm used to doing it, except the signature. Click email. If there's an address in, that's great. We just hit confirm. Otherwise, I'm going to cancel because I don't have that there. Otherwise, we update the address and we're done. And we're right back to the issue inventory so we can move on to the next student. So the process, once you have it in place, it's pretty quick, even if you're collecting those digital signatures. So let's take a look at Brandon's account now that we've issued something new to him. So I was still in the students grid, so he just happened to already be back there. There's the new Chromebook that we just issued to him. And notice that now he has an attachment also. And that attachment is that signed distribution receipt. It'll always stay there. Even after he turns this Chromebook back in, we're going to have a copy of that distribution receipt. So when I click it, it downloads. Every time somebody sends me something on Teams, I lose that bar. And there's the receipt. I have a copy of it. I can email it out to someone as well if I need to do that now. It's a PDF. So whatever I could do with PDFs, I can do here. Another thing you might, and you can, anytime you can add your own attachment. So maybe you have the signed user agreements and it's in a scanned document, you can attach it here. Right now, we cannot do that in a batch, but that feature is pretty high on the feature request list, which tells me it probably won't be too long. Okay, questions about the issuing process? Anything, because I know this was number one on our list, right? So I want to make sure you guys understand the process and it's clear to you and you're starting to develop ways that you can do that. Okay, so let's talk about the collection process now. Fast forward to June. So now we're starting to bring stuff back in for the summer so that we can start to work on them. Again, the quickest way to do it if you've got a group lined up, right? You got a group lined up out there and they're all just coming at you one at a time. The quickest way is under side tools. We're going to do quick collect, but it's not the only way. Notice I have Brandon's record open. Each individual item that he has in his hands has a quick collect link over here under actions. So I could click that to quickly collect that specific asset if I just happen to be in Brandon's account and it's open. So you're going to be using all of these approaches depending on the situation. We'll look at the quick collect screen. And when I go from the left side of the screen and pull up that particular site tool, I don't have any information really pre-filled in the form because the system, I didn't go from the room, I didn't go from the student. It doesn't really have that information. So what room are we going to return this to, this particular item to? I have a room called technology distribution, like a storage room. So I have this technology distribution storage room. I'm going to return all these to. Notice as soon as I chose the room, there's a lock. And also notice there's a search. So if I don't know the room number, I can go search for it and choose it. So then I'm going to need to know which status I'm collecting these to. So here's where we see more statuses than just available and in use. Why are we collecting these items? Are we getting rid of them? Are they going to go straight into a status of disposed? Are we just pulling them into the summer? Do we maybe want them to go into a status of in repair? that gives me a real quick lookup. So what do I have in the technology distribution stores that needs to be repaired? There's my summer workload, right? And then as I get each one of them done, I can change their status back to available so that they're ready to check back out at the beginning of the next school year. It depends, because every single district has its own processes. So I'm going to go ahead and just put them back in a status of available for now. Makes my life a little bit easier for my next training. But there's certainly any number of combinations that you can do there. And my status notes. So this is my year-end collection process. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the note and then lock it in place. So every tag that I scan is going to have these attributes as I scan it. I don't need to come back up here again. As long as I'm in the quick collect window, I can start. I can go, okay, who's up? Now notice I have no user information on this form. So I really don't care who walks up to me. They don't have to be in any specific order. They don't even have to tell me who they are right away. So they're just going to walk up to me and hand me their item. And I'm going to plug in, I'm going to scan the tag number for that item and hit enter. The system is going to tell me what it is. So right down here in the scan history, I see that that's the Chromebook that we gave to Brandon. He's done now. At this point, technically in the system, that Chromebook now has a history where it was issued to Brandon and then it was collected back from Brandon. So Brandon has credit for returning this item. I can stop here. I could collect another digital signature here. Some districts do that. Sometimes they only do it in certain situations, like maybe there was a charge or something. So under the report section, I can do a today's collection receipt or a full transaction receipt and get a signature. It works exactly the same way we just saw. And I have some other options, but I'm going to look at Brandon. Now I'm going to notice who the student is, and hopefully the student that just handed me that is Brandon. Thanks, Brandon. I take a look at the device. Everything looks good. See you next year, and enjoy your summer. And next. So I'm just going to go right back to the tag serial number search, and I'm going to scan the next item that's handed. So I see now at the top of my list is Crystal. So the item I just got was in the hands of Crystal. So I open the screen, I check, part of your check-in, you're gonna open the item and check the screen. Crystal, what happened? This thing is shattered, this display is shattered. And she gets it, well, yeah, I just dropped it in the parking lot. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to charge you for that, Crystal. So just know, now depending on your processes again, it's probably not efficient for the person that's checking it in to actually deal with charges. And the students are unlikely to have any money on them right now anyway. So we just want to let Crystal know that she's going to get charged for that display. And before I move on to my next student, I'm going to go into actions over here and go to the assess charge window. It's automatically going to do this for Crystal because that's the record I'm looking at. So my charge types, these are all set up at the administrative level. So she came back with a broken screen. The system already knows what the asset is that we had a broken screen on because I just scanned it in. So it knows the broken screen was on tag number 51924. This charge amount was set by the district, but they gave me the ability to change it if I need to. And then I might make a note. And I can just say that the display is completely, this might come in handy when it's time to do a repair, right? Oops, shattered. And hopefully I don't have to know how to spell to do that. Now, if she already knew what was coming and she brought money, we can record it here as well. Or we can just leave it. And so I'm going to hit save there. I'm going to end up coming back into the quick collect window and I can bring on my next student. So I don't have to spend I don't have to go find Crystal's record and open Crystal's record and add that charge to her. The system allows me to just jump quickly to assess the charge, plug it in, send her on her way, and take up my next return. And so that return might be one of the teachers. It doesn't matter with the quick collect if you're coming in from staff or student. But here's my next example. Remember With the laptops, we had the accessories. Remember the A icon? We flew over the laptop, had a power adapter. Most of our Chromebooks probably will too. So because the system shows that this laptop that I'm checking in right now had an accessory, was a power adapter, and knows that one of those was issued with this particular laptop, it's reminding me to collect that as well. So if I got it back, all is well. If I got this guy back like I was supposed to, everything is good. I just click collect and I have brought that back in from Nile. And I can do the same thing and get a signature from her or go out and charge if there's damage. Now for accessories, let's bring in our next staff member and bring in that other asset that we gave out. I believe it was 31502. So let's say that for this laptop, I don't get the power adapter back. What happened to the power adapter? I lost it. Okay, well, you're going to get charged for that. And so I can go ahead and just put a 0 here on the number of power adapters that I collected. Now, this particular next thing kind of depends on how the district sets up the accessory. So there's ability to say, if this accessory is not returned, automatically charge that person's account. So I can click collect here and I can just let Donna know that her account has been charged for that missing accessory. I don't necessarily have to go in and assess a charge for the missing accessory as long as the system is set up that way. So you'll kind of get used to that. You know, sometimes you'll need to assess a charge because there's missing keys or there's a cracked display. But if your accessories are set up correctly, you won't have to go worry about the accessory. It'll just happen in the background. Any questions about that process? Questions or discussion? It doesn't have to be just a question. Do you like it? Does it make you nervous? Is there something missing? Okay, guys, don't make me bring out the annotate. Yeah, Mandy, I gotta say, when COVID hit, a lot of districts had a little panic because they really didn't know where things were. And so I did have a moment of thankfulness that I had set my district up for that before I left. And then I had another really big moment of thankfulness that I retired when I did. Because I'm sorry, I understand what you guys have gone through in this last year has been exponentially more than what you were doing before, which was already so much. So yeah, I wish that everybody did have something like this last year. And hopefully, as you get this implemented, it'll start to ease some of that from you guys. Okay, so we've done issuing, collecting. So now let's just talk about what we do. Inventory is the name of the game here, right? So we really even haven't talked about those individual assets or what that might, what they look like in the system or anything like that. So let's go back and focus on the tags themselves and what kind of information we've collected on this inventory. It's amazing. You're going to be shocked at how much information we can put together on something. So starting with one of these items that we've checked out already, notice up here in the tag serial number search bar, this bar is always with you no matter where you're at in the application. I can come up here and either scan a tag or just type in the tag number and hit enter, and I'm going to get what's called the tag information window. So So the tag information window is like the holy grail of Tipweb IT because this is it. This brings together every single, there's a whole new aspect of this right now, and it's the first time I've seen it because we did an update of the application last night that actually allows districts that are using the an MDM system to manage your one-to-one devices to actually start to pull the information from the MDM right into the tag information window, which is really exciting. But anyway, I digress. So this first pane of the tag information window is detail about the asset that we're talking about. So it's tag number 31501. It has this serial number. It is at Learning Campus in room 509. The asset type is standalone. That's a default type for every asset that comes into the application. It's a standalone asset, which simply means we manage it on its own merits. If I transfer it to this room, it's just that one I'm talking about. If I issue it to a person, it's just that one laptop that I'm talking about. So it stands on its own as far as management is concerned. So we'll look at one that is not a standalone in a minute. Status is available. Now this status is directly going to affect what I see in this drop-down action. We're going to look at that again in just a second. So then I have funding information. I know where we bought this particular asset and when we bought it and what purchase order and what funding source, and all this cool information is right here because when we bring new assets in via the purchasing process, we gather this information at the same time. And then we have the actual, just the product itself. So generally it is a Hayes Infinity laptop. We see the picture that was uploaded and so on. Excuse me. Then I have these other tabs across the top. Status history is going to give me a log. It shows me what we've done with this asset since the day we got it through the lifespan of the asset. So basically, this was brought into Learning Campus in a room called receiving during the data import or conversion process, back when we started using Tipweb IT. And then it sat there for almost a lot of years. Some of the data I have is kind of older. And it was issued to Nile Adcock. And then it was returned at the end of the year and put back in room 509. So we'll see that you'll just see that grow over time. So we have a history. If this particular item was ever included in an audit, you would see the audit results. Was it exactly where we thought it was, or did we have to move it around or whatever? Ticket history is tied directly to Hayes Software's Get Help ticketing system. That is a help desk ticketing system. So if you are one of the districts that have both pieces of software, this is where the integration starts. So I would see here a log of every help ticket that was ever opened for this particular asset and what the status of that ticket is. Components is tied directly to the asset type. Remember, I said this is a standalone asset, which means it stands on its own. So it has no components. If it were something that I wanted to start managing as a group, then I would go to the parent of that group, think laptop carts, and I would come to the components tab and start scanning tag numbers, think laptops. And that would change the asset type to a parent. And this screen changes depending on the asset type. We'll look at that. And the attachment screen, again, this is a place I can upload an attachment, something that is very specific to this asset. Like, oh, it was stolen. Well, then here's the police report that it was reported stolen on. Or maybe here's a picture of some specific damage of the assets. And we could put it here. We could also put it in Get Help, depending on how you work, right? So back to the detail piece, and on this drop down in the upper right-hand corner, when I drop this down, now here we go again. Here's a third way to get to those windows we looked at earlier. Issue to staff, issue to student. So because this is in a status of available, I have issue to staff or student. I could also change it to another room. If I change this, so into a status of in use, so I'll do that right now. We'll change this to a status of in use. I get a little change status window. It gives me a chance to make a note as to why I'm changing the status. So use the notes, it's important. You know that 3 weeks from now, when somebody asks you, why did you take action, that particular action on this laptop, you're not going to remember. So make a note that says why you made that change. So now this particular asset is in a status of in use instead of available. Watch what happens here. What's missing from my change location action list? I no longer have that issue to staff or student option because the asset is not available for that. It's being used. I can't just hand it out to someone else. I could transfer it to another room, but I cannot issue it out to someone else. So we'll put this back in a status of available. Now let's check this out. In a minute. So I'm got right back to the tag information window for this asset. So we're going to use this screen quite a bit at the site level when we're dealing with one asset. It's a great way to verify. And for a while, as you're implementing your inventory, for a while, you're going to want to scan assets. When you go sit in the room and just scan an asset, just, scan it. Let's see what the system says about this asset. Let's see if it says the location is the room I'm standing in. Let's just check. So it'll be these little quick checks that you do. You'll learn a lot of information about your inventory if you do that and you get really familiar, and you'll be able to make some changes. It's like if I'm standing in room 509 and that says room 509, great. If I'm standing in room 10 and this says it's in room 509, then maybe, just maybe, I need to do a room transfer and put that guy in the right place so that I'm starting to record things in real time. That's the power of this database, is I want to make sure that everything is being recorded exactly as it happens when it happens. So I want to look at an asset that's going to be a parent asset. So I just plugged the tag number right up in here, tag serial number search. And we see down at the bottom with product information that this is a laptop cart, a storage cart. And I also see that the asset type is parent and the status is available. So let's say someone says, hey, room 23, the teacher in room 23. Hey, I really could use about 10 laptops in my classroom for this project that I'm going to do for a couple of weeks. Do you have anything available? So I do a search in the database for available stuff and I find this cart. I see that it's a parent. If I look now at the components tab, I'm going to see what it has in it. So it's a parent, and look, it has 10 laptops in it. And look at that, it's available. So I can transfer this particular cart to the teacher in room 23. And she can use it there. So I'm going to do that I can do it from any of these tabs, but I'm going to do it from the detail tab just so you can see. I'm going to go ahead and do a room transfer. So here's my room to room list. This is a one-off, right? I'm just doing this one thing. She's in room 23, so I can type the room number and hit enter. I'm going to see this here. Now, I do not want to use the previous tag status. Because that's available and I don't want it to be available. So I'm going to change it to in use so that it doesn't pop up on anybody's list if they search now because it's busy. The system has already plugged in my tag number because I started from the tag information window. It knows the tag, so I can click save. Watch this change down here. This is my scan history for the day. These are the 2 laptops we just checked in a minute ago. So I'm sorry, this is the one laptop that I changed from in use to available a minute ago. So I only have 2 items in my scan history. When I hit save here, the system is going to pop up and say, hey, wait a minute, this is a parent and it has components. So just so you know this tag contains components, they're also going to be transferred. Perfect. I don't want to have to do this 11 times. So that's the purpose of your parent component relationship. So I'm going to transfer the cart, and then I'll be able to go, yep, that's exactly what I want to do, is confirm. And you'll see that there's options there to remove one laptop or all laptops from the cart before you transfer it if you want to. So I hit go, and now I have 14 items on my list because the system transferred every laptop, as well as the cart in that transfer. So now when I click on done, I'll see that the cart is now in use, and it's also now in room 23 instead of in room 509. So that's kind of transferring that one piece. So let's talk about this other scenario. Let's say I'm going to have a brand new math class because I have extra students and we didn't have enough math teachers. So I'm gonna start a brand new math class, but we don't have the budget to buy that classroom more technology. So I'm gonna borrow from the other classrooms in the site to try to put together enough technology for this one teacher in our new classroom. So the quickest way to do that would be to go out and gather your stuff and take them to the new room physically, right? And then we're going to come into the system under our site tools and do a room to room transfer. So we've already seen this room to room transfer table. We saw it when we transferred our laptops and our cart. There's the history right there. Now, what I'm going to do is whatever room I'm in, so let's say it's room 22. So I'm going to plug that room number in. I'm going to set a status for these items that I'm fixing to scan. So they're all going to be in use in this new classroom. And I'm going to lock that in place. So I don't have to think about the status. Now I'm just going to scan everything I've brought into my room. So these things come from all different areas in the building. But here I am. I've brought them all to this room. They're all just sitting there. I set up my room to room transfer and I start to scan. So I don't have my scan. I don't have any barcodes to scan, so I'm gonna have to type. So you might have to just bear with my typing skills here for a second. But if I had a scanner, this would be even faster than my way cool typing skills. There's no T on that one. 5462 and 3787. Ooh, my typing missed. So see the message I got, tag 0 number not found, because I missed one of the letters in that, 3787. So I've now transferred 5 items into room 22 from all over this school. And I'm basically done. Now I want you to kind of think about the process here. Some districts in the data conversion process will put all the assets they know are in your building in one room that they set up. It's like a virtual room. It's not even really a real room. They'll call it something like data conversion, right? So I know that all of this stuff is at the high school, but I don't know where it is. So we're just going to dump it all to this data conversion room. So what's the fastest way for you now at the site level to go through and get the stuff recorded in the right location? So we're just going to walk into the room, open the room to room window, plug in our room number, put the right status, which is in use if it's in a room, right? And just scan everything we see. That's going to bring it into the room. We're going to move to the next room. So that you can see, even in a large school, you could have that done fairly quickly, depending on your workload and how you schedule it and so on. So this is something you might use very early on in the process, just to make sure that everything gets transferred. Also, even if you scan something that's already recorded in that room, if it's already in the room, but it doesn't have the right status, this will fix the status. Otherwise, it'll just ignore the fact that you scan. It's like, yeah, it's already there. I don't have to do the transfer next. So you just get that scanner and just ding, 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 ding. And you're done getting all the stuff that's physically in that room, recorded in that room. So now at least that room has got real-time information. I'm excited by that. I hope that you are too, because that's a really easy way to get it done in the beginning to make sure everything's recorded correctly. Okay, questions? So that's moving things around. There's a lot of stuff we still have to kind of cram into the next 20 minutes. But I would rather cover what we cover well enough for you to move forward. And I'm going to send a follow-up email also to everyone that has some links to some quick, kind of the quick step-by-step to each one of these things that we're covering. So you have something to go back and refer to. Okay, so let's talk about the transfer process. Oh, Anthony, how do you add laptops to a cart for a parent or child configuration? Okay, excellent question. So let me bring that cart back up. Oh, that was not the right number. Oh, hey, it's cart. So this is a parent. Let's look at the components list and see what's in there. So there's 10 items here. I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to remove them. And I just need this list so I can put them back. So right here, I can remove these one at a time. And what happens is this laptop then, which if I click on the link, I'll see the details screen for the laptop itself. So here's the Latitude 13 laptop. You'll see that its asset type is component. And when I go to the components tab for that guy, remember I said this one has different personalities? Then it's going to show me who the parent is. So I can remove him from here or from the parent itself. Again, I'm going to jump to the parent. I can go and take the components out. So once the components are no longer in the cart, and I'm just hitting the remove on each one, they become standalone automatically and they get dumped to the same room with the same status as the cart had when you broke the relationship. Okay, so now I have no components, right? So my cart now is a standalone. I didn't go in and change the type, I just removed the components. So now here's the cart. I walk into a room, there's the cart, and they don't have this relationship. So my first thing is I'm going to go to the components tab, and now I'm just simply going to start scanning the tags right into this window. And as I scan the tags, oops, oh darn, as I scan the tags, they're going to be added in there. Notice they have to be in a status of available, and I had that cart in the status of in use. Bah humbug. I'm going to come back to this question because I'm going to use this example to show you how to make some bulk edits in a minute. So now let me forget to come back to this question. And we'll show you how it works. I think you get it now, but we'll show you how it works. Okay, so we're going to do a transfer of tags from one site to another. You have to remove a component from the parent before issuing the device to a student. Yes. Yes and no. If it's a part of a parent and you go and that parent has to be in available status, which means the laptop itself or Chromebook will be in available status, then I can go ahead and issue the laptop and the system will tell me, hey, this is going to break the relationship. So you don't have to do it first. It will be a part of the issuing at that point. The system's going to give you a message. So when you get it back, you'll have to put it back in the cart. Okay. So it takes two to tango on site-to-site transfers. The person sending the tags to the other site and the person that is receiving the tags from the site. So I'm working at Learning Campus. My principal asked me to send some stuff over to Learning Middle School. I'm going to come over here under Transfer Tools and click Initiate Transfer. So my first step is to select a designation. So I'm sending these over to Learning Middle School. And I click Go, and this starts my transfer process. So the first question I'm going to get in this process is what are the tags that are being transferred? So I probably have them in front of me anyways. I'm just going to use my scanner to enter the tags. Now, these tags cannot be issued to a person. They have to be in a room, and they could be in a status of in use, but they cannot be in a like actually issued to a person. They have to be locally. That's another argument for keeping your stuff real time, doing work in the application while the work is happening. So getting out of that mindset of, oh, I'll update the paperwork later, but no, what you want to do is be in the application. So I've entered 4 assets that I'm going to send over to Learning Middle School. I also have the ability to put some notes in here. So I could just say for library per Principal Smith, so that when this gets over to the other site, they'll know why, where to put them in their site. So my next step is to submit the transfer. Now there's the ability to set up rules here in the system that only certain people can transfer assets that were purchased with special ed funding. Or anytime that a transfer is created at a site, it has to be approved before we can actually do it. So when I submit the transfer, the system is going to check for those rules and then come back and give me a new status. So because there were no approval rules to apply, I'm both submitted and approved, and my next step is to ship the transfer. So it's ready. Basically, my 4 laptops, maybe they're just sitting in a box waiting for somebody to come pick them up. Or maybe I'm gonna put them in my own car and go down the street. Really, it just depends on the district, right? We all do things a little bit differently. But when I'm ready to take this item, these tags out of my site and put them on the way, I'm gonna click Ship Transfer. I have the digital signatures turned on right now. So this doesn't work unless the digital signature for transfers is actually turned on. So what if a laptop is issued to a teacher and then that teacher changes campuses, but she's taking her laptop with her? So yeah, that's a whole different, we can transfer that when we transfer the teacher. It doesn't have to be done in this particular way. There's another way to accomplish that. So I'm going to sign, when I'm signing this, I'm the person that's delivering. This is the signature means I'm the pickup person. So I picked him up. I'm putting him in my car. When I accept the signature now, they're going to go ahead and give you the opportunity to type in who that actually is, because we can't read signatures, right? So now, if I look at any of these assets, they're going to be in a status of in transit. So if I bring up one of those guys, 30922, in the tag information window, I can see they're no longer at my site. They're technically in this transfer. They have not been received yet. So they're in transit to Learning Middle School. So there's some things that you do in the like if we're doing bulk changes and things and you run across a tag that's in a transfer, you're going to get errors on that tag. The best I can say about transfers is finish them when you start them, because they will cause you a headache for other processes in the application, like audits. If you start an audit, you want to make sure all your transfers are complete before you do that. So I'm done basically at Learning Campus because they're not in my hands anymore. Those laptops are in someone's car on the way to the other site. So let's go ahead and become the person at Learning Middle School. So I'm going to change my site here and become the receiver. Now, if you go, I'm going to go to the dashboard. Remember I said I really like the notifications screen because it gives me some to-dos, right? That notifications report. Look, I have a transfer that's ready to be received. So I know something's on its way. So when the person walks in with my box of laptops and says, here's the stuff from Learning Campus, I can either click here or I can click over here to receive a transfer. Either one is going to bring you to the same exact window. So if they have something printed out with the transfer number, I can just type in the transfer number, or I can do a search and find the transfer that's coming to me from Learning Campus. So I'll select that one. And I see now that this transfer, I need to basically sign the fact that I have this box of laptops in front of me. So now that takes the responsibility off the shoulders of the delivery person. So somebody is signing the fact that those tags have shown up at the door. So here we have another signature, and this is my other personality that signed for them. So we know now that these are in the receiving process, but we're not done yet. We still need to do something. Number one, we have to say, where are these going? Remember the transfer notes? There's my transfer notes. I can read that. It's like a log. So anyone can come in and make a note, and it'll be logged who made the note and what the date and time was. Oh, they're going to the library. Okay. So my room here is library. What status? Well, I didn't really say anything in my notice to what they were going to be used for, but I'm going to go ahead and put them in status of available so they can be checked out since they're laptops. And now what I'm going to need to do is scan the tags. So what this does is it creates this checks and balances system to say, not only did I receive 4 laptops, I received the exact 4 laptops that you sent me. So if there's, oh, here, I'll keep doing this just so you see the error. So you'll see that, oh, this tag's not found. Well, that'll get my attention. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Well, what happened? And maybe I need to call myself over at Learning Campus and say, hey, how come you said you sent me these 4, but I got this one and it's not on the list that you sent? You know, so there's some checks and balances there. So you know 100% for sure that nobody changed out the laptops on the way for something different. So now I've received all 4, I've verified them, and I'm complete with my transfer. And so now when I do a search for that tag we were looking at a little while ago, we see the tag is now at Learning Middle School in the library in a status of available. So it's no longer in the transfer. And my status history will show for each and every one of those laptops that they were at Learning Campus, but they were transferred to Learning Middle School. And now they're at Learning Middle School in the library. So we see that. So that's site-to-site transfers. And a lot of districts will use that to get things from, you know, the central office when if they're receiving everything in a place in central office, then they'll do that site-to-site transfer. And then that way they have that record that says, here they are, and we've transferred them. Other districts will just write in the purchase order, go ahead and deliver them straight to you through the purchase order without doing the transfer. So it just depends on your district. So when we transfer a staff member from one site to another site, we'll be able to also bring along that laptop with them if it's going to stay issued to them. It won't be the site-to-site transfer. It will be as a process of actually moving the staff member. So just, can you run a report of devices that are assigned to users that are not in the same building before you transfer it? Well, yes, I'm trying to just think in my mind where that works. So when I transfer a staff member, for a while, that staff member is going to be listed in both sites until something happens within the student information system to get that person in the right site, and the asset itself no longer belongs to the other site. So there's some different scenarios that we would look at there. It gets a little more ingrained. But we can certainly run a report. That's our next go-to. That's where we're headed right now, to searching in reports. So let's check that out. How do you recommend issue to a long-term sub or student teacher who may not be in the system? Okay, so you're going to do that in the staff grid. You're going to create those accounts manually. So for the most part, we don't have to create accounts. But if you don't have these folks in your student information system and they're not being brought over, then you'll go into the staff grid and you will go ahead and add that person manually. And you guys probably should talk about this process to make sure it doesn't get really weird. But you need some sort of a staff ID. And if the district is paying that person at all, they should have a staff ID, and you should use what HR uses for them. And so at the very least, you'll want to put in that staff ID and the first and last name. Let Google put me in there. Wow. So maybe I'm Gina the substitute. So I don't need the rest of this stuff. We could have staff types designated for substitutes as well. So this is another something that's kind of created at the district level. It's not necessarily for this reason, but you could use it that way. We could create, there's a statuses table it's an empty table. Your district can use it however you want. So you could create a status called long-term sub. And then you could also make notes. So a couple different ways you could do that. And you guys can play with it and decide what works best for you. But once I have this account created, I can go ahead and issue to that person. And they won't be updated by your student information system because their staff ID doesn't exist. It'll just kind of be ignored. It's just a manual account that you've created. So if you do this, you're going to need to talk to each other because this person is probably going to move around. And so this person is going to end up with multiple records at different sites. Something I wanted you to see talking about search. This tag serial number search here can be, the focus can change from tag serial to staff or student. So if I want to look up a staff member to figure out where they are and, like what kind of things they have issued to them from different areas, I can either plug in their staff ID or their name there. And I'm going to get a summary. And see, it doesn't matter where I'm at in the application. I'm going to get the summary front and center. So I can see that Nile works at Learning Campus as a 9th grade teacher. And she has these 2 items issued to her, and they were both issued from Learning Campus. So this is like looking up that one staff member, right? And if I want to really dig in and quickly go see her record, I can just click view staff here. The system's going to take me to the staff grid and open Nile's record. It's kind of a quick, how do I get there? So the search works the same as well for students. But what I want to do before we run out of too much time here is get to the tags grid, because that question about how do I make maybe some bulk edits, how do I search, this is all going to be right here in the tags grid. And so it's really an important piece to get to. So tags grid, basic filters. Somebody asked, hey, can I look up the location of things? So remember, in TipWeb IT, locations are rooms, staff, students. So if I want to look at my assets that are issued out to students, I simply come right into the tags grid, and I only need one filter, and that's my location filter. So location of student, and go. And that's a really simple search. So I can see my list of assets. There's the tag number and the serial number and what type it is. There's the person that has it issued to them. And I see down here, there's 107 of those in my system, checked out to students at Learning Campus. I'm at Learning Campus, so all these assets are going to be physically located at Learning Campus. So that's a pretty quick search. So the basics are all really quick. If I wanted to do like, let's not care about the location, but let's care about the status. What do I have in my site that's available? So I'm just searching on that particular basic search filter. So I have 2,830 items that are available. So that's probably shouldn't be that big of a number, right? But I can do some stuff there. Funding source, vendor name. Those are all basic searches. Also have product type. So let's leave the status of available and say I've got a bunch of different product types here, furnitures and carts and monitors. Let's say I just want to know what I have in the way of laptops. So this is a little different filter. I start typing and then I choose the right product type that I'm looking for and hit go. So that's going to narrow this down to only available laptops. So I'll go from 2,830 items to 257. So those are your basic filters. You can use any combination of these basic filters to do some searches and get some things in front of you. We also have advanced filters that allow you to search on almost any field you're looking for. So under custom filters, you add an expression here in order to get to the rest of the fields in the database. So when I added the expression, by default, the system's giving me tag number for the field. But if I come up here and click on that, I'm going to get a list of all the fields that I can use to search my database. I can also just use a list of tags. So going back to that example we were doing earlier, where I wanted to show you how to add items to that parent cart, but I couldn't do it because my assets were all in a status of in use, right? I'm going to refresh this guy. I know exactly what the tag numbers are for this particular thing. And I want to change, this is my process. I want to change the status for every one of those laptops from in use to available. So I'm going to start by getting a list, getting those assets in front of me. So there's my 10 laptops. The only filter I have now is this tags list. I could also do serial numbers if that's what I had. And I can copy and paste these from anywhere. Excel, I can just ignore the fact that they're in rows and copy and paste a Word document, a notepad. It doesn't matter. I can copy and paste the list. I can scan right into the list as well. So I'm going to hit go, and I'm going to end up getting those 10 laptops in my grid. Once I've filtered the items and I have them in front of me, now I can come up here above the grid and do some changes. So I can do a bulk edit. And the edit allows me to change one of two fields at the site level: status or asset condition. So in this case, I want the status on all of those laptops to get out of in use and be available. So I'm going to assign them to the cart, and I can't do that unless they're available to do so. So when I hit enter, I'm going to get this little sample selection. So it shows me, I happen to be able to see all 10 in this case. I'm never going to see more than 10 records. But it gives me just a little preview of what the records now currently have in them, so that I know for sure what I'm going to do. So I hit go, and I'm going to have to say, yep, I do want to change all of these things. I want to proceed. And I'm going to wait for the system to tell me that that's done. So my bulk edit is complete. And now when I get a refresh here, you'll see that the status has changed from in use to available. Right? So now I don't even have to leave the tags grid. I can change the focus to tag, go get that at storage cart, go to the components, and now I can scan them. So you'll get used to that, and because there are certain things that we do as we are doing day-to-day stuff will make a difference to the next step, right? So you'll get used to that. So I just scan those in as needed, and now they are going to become those asset type. Watch when I refresh this. When I go here again, some of these now are going to be an asset type of component, and some are standalone still because I didn't get all 10 of them typed in there. So hopefully that kind of goes back and answers the first question of how do I make them a part of the cart, as well as answering the how do I do some bulk edits. I can also do some transfers here as well, bulk room transfer, just like the room to room transfer. It's just I have everything in my list and I want to do a bulk room transfer. I'm not going to be able to transfer the components without breaking the thing, but I could change my filter so I'm just looking for standalone assets. So now I still have those 10 in my filter, but I'm adding another thing saying only the standalone guys, right? So now I'm changing my search here. So my filter is only going to show me those tags in that list that are also standalone. And now I could transfer them to another room in the site as a group. So the tags grid allows you to search on just about every single field. And then you can do some bulk edits, change status or asset condition. And then also I can use it to transfer items from one room to another. Now, I can also save my searches. So if I get a really good, if I have a report that I've built that I know I'm going to need more than once, it's not a simple search. It's something I'm going to need to look up all the time. Then once I create that report, I can save it. So I can name it something and save it. And that will save all the search criteria as well as the fields I have down here in my grid, which can be edited as well, right? So if I don't want to see these particular fields that are down here, I can click edit columns and I can change the fields that are in my report. So everything on the left is available, everything on the right is being used. So I just simply pick something and move it over and it becomes part of my report. So when I save a search, it saves the fields, the columns, as well as the search criteria, so that when I want to see that report again, I simply click on the link to see it. One last thing in your saved searches. So when I click save searches here, I have the ability to email this out on a schedule. Now, if you look in the, I can't move this out of the way. Let me show you this real quick. One of the things I do up here is email report. That sends the report without me having to save it or anything. I can email it out to somebody. So say the principal called and said, hey, can you tell me how many assets we have that we purchased with technology funds? Then I could just bring them up and with the columns he wants and hit that and email it one off to him. He's not going to want it again. But if it's a report that you want to repeat later, I can go ahead and save it and then go into my saved searches and actually schedule under actions an email to automatically go out. So I'm going to enable the scheduling ability, and then I'm going to put my email address or addresses in the field there. And then I'm going to choose my schedule. So email this to me every week on Friday. Sorry, so my Google autofill gets in the way there. Let's start this, oops, I don't even know what, this Friday. And let's not worry about an end date, because when I'm tired of getting it, I'll come turn it off. Or let's do through the end of the year. It's your choice. And I click on save, and now I don't even have to think about that report again. I'm going to get it in my inbox in an Excel extract. So saved emailed reports come in the format of exactly what columns you have. So that's going to look, the columns are the same, and it gets this tag listing report down here. So the tag listing is just an extract of those exact data and columns. So we'll get a good look at this one here. So same stuff right there that I was seeing in my grid, but that would be emailed to me every Friday. If for some reason I needed to see it. So any questions, anybody curious about do you have a specific report in your mind that you would like me to show you? Any questions at all? Actually, we're kind of in the question and answer session. So what's on your mind? You want to discuss anything specific? Do you want me to show you something again or show you something you didn't see? How do you transfer a teacher to a different campus? Okay. So I'm gonna go to the I'm gonna go home for a second, go to the staff grid for a second. Let's pick someone. See if Tommy's got anything in his. So the transfer process. I'm gonna put a little disclaimer here. The easiest way to do a transfer is to let your student information system do it for you. Okay. So doing a transfer of a staff member prior to that happening in the student information system can get a little confusing. But let's see if I can find someone that has just one item. If I cannot, for some reason, wait for that particular teacher to show up. Oh, I'm having such a hard, did I issue some of this? No, I already brought that back from her. There we go. Okay, so Lori Anderson, she has an asset issued to her, and it's 105435. And she's right now at Learning Campus. Let's say Lori moved over to Learning Middle School, and I'm going to actually have to add her to Learning Middle School. This is going to happen in the student information system as well, the same way. If the transfer happens in the student information system and Lori still has this laptop checked out from Learning Campus, then it's just going to show up. She's going to be in two places for a while. So let me move over to Learning Middle School. I wrote down Lori's staff ID because I'm going to need to know what that is. It's going to have to match or we're going to have a problem. So I go to the staff records in Learning Middle School, and I'm going to go ahead and add Lori in here manually. So if the student information system does this overnight, then I'm not going to have to worry about this. So her staff ID is 326. And notice by default, sorry about my little Google fill there, I have to have a name. But I don't need anything else by default. And honestly, I might want to wait for that whole student information system to catch up before I do anything else anyway. But I do want to issue something to her. So I'm going to save her record there. So now you'll see that Lori already has a laptop issued to her. I just created her account. I didn't issue it to her from Learning Middle School, but she already had one at Learning Campus. So until someone at Learning Campus collects this laptop, Lori Anderson is always going to be in the system twice. So let's see if we can find her. Ugh. Staff. Here we go. So notice when I do a search for her, I see her twice, once at Learning Campus and once at Learning Middle School. So even when she's no longer in the student information system as a part of Learning Campus, as long as Learning Campus still issued her that laptop, her record is not going to deactivate. So she'll be showing at both places for a while. So that can be a little confusing sometimes, but you'll get used to it. So you can't remove a staff or deactivate a staff member who has inventory issued to them. Otherwise, you might end up not ever knowing that you didn't get that back, if that makes sense. So did that work for you, Mandy?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you get the laptop to show that it's at middle school and not at the Learning Campus? Because she's going to take the laptop with her when she changes campuses.
And so now is it going to kind of physically, okay, so here's the rub on that one. Some districts, let's say I'll issue inventory from the technology center at the district office. So it always technically belongs to the technology center, but I'm issuing it out to people all over the district. So they'll never actually move the location of the laptop because it's with the person and they know where the person is. They're not too worried. But if your plan is to actually move the ownership of that laptop over then to Learning Middle School, then there's a process of taking that staff member and, oh, I don't want to answer this wrong. I haven't done this in a while. I'm sorry. I have to kind of think through the process. You actually would deactivate and transfer. I have step-by-step instructions for this process. So I think it probably would do you better for me to find those and send them to you as a follow-up, if you wouldn't mind. Because it's a very distinct process of getting this so that it no longer belongs to Learning Campus. So some districts are going to say, no, I want to be sure to collect it from Lori. Depends, right? Is she coming? Is it the end of the year and she's not going to be here next year, but she's going to be over there, but we really don't want over the summer to lose this thing. So we're going to collect it and then transfer it, or are we just going to automatically move it, or, you know, what's the rule? Everybody seems to have a different one.
Right.
The good news is on the student side of things, I can just put a check mark in district settings that says when the student moves, their stuff goes with them. So that's nice, but staff is a little different because of the many different ways that staff works within the district. Because I could be a staff member that works for the SPED department and I have 3 or 4 different sites that I go to all the time, right? So my device is really technically belongs to SPED and I just take it with me. So there's a lot of scenarios here. And I can't, if I remember where my step-by-step is before we're done with the other questions, I'll come back to it. Otherwise, let me send you a follow-up there.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So then we have, is there a missing inventory report for the end of school? So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. So you can go to the tags grid and look for anything that's still that's still issued to students, right? Technically, if your process is to collect those items from the students and you still have students with items issued to them, those items are technically missing at the end of the school year. So we can do that a couple of different ways. In the students grid, there is a report that says student inventory status. And that will show you all students with inventory. There's even another way to do that in the tags grid. And then we also have the students with no distribution. So this is kind of like a two-way street here now. Let's say I'm doing a rollout at the beginning of the year and I need to know who hasn't come pick something up. The students with no distributions is great. At the end of the year, I want my inventory status report. So I want to know what students have a specific device still issued to them. So statuses would be in use. So if it's issued to a student, it'll be in use. As of today, what inventory do these students have? And so you're going to end up with a report there that shows you which students still have issued items to them. Oh, there's nobody. Fooey. Also, is that right? Oh, it's the middle school. It might be right. I also have the tags grid. We're going to see if that report was right. And if it's not, I'm going to turn that into R&D. I could say, show me what is still existing in the hands of a student for my site. And our other report was right. I'm at Learning Middle School. There's no students here that have anything issued out to them. So that's 2 ways to get that specific same report. Will a room-to-room transfer work if you're auditing a room and an asset is in use in another room because a teacher moved it without asking? So transfers within an audit are a little different. So audits like they take a snapshot of the database, right? And I'm fixing to do next week, I'm going to be doing a 4-part series on audits. It's very in depth. But the inventory gets this little snapshot, and then you go through and you scan things in every room. Now, if something comes up, say you're scanning in room 10 and you scan something that was in the system as being in room 5, the audit status there is going to be misplaced. Basically, misplaced in an audit means this isn't where I thought it was going to be. And so part of the audit reconciliation would be to decide what you're going to do with that item. So you could go and say, you could put a status right there in that point. Well, this was moved without permission. We need to take it back to room 5. And we would then take that action against that tag during the reconciliation process. So you end up scanning with a status of verified, which says, oh, the system said that was in room 10 and I scanned it in room 10. Or misplaced, where, oh, the system said that was in room 5, but here I have scanned it in room 10. So that's what happens in an audit. And you do have the ability to go ahead and transfer them if you want to. So you could like take on a policy that says everything that was misplaced in the scanning of an audit, when I reconcile the audit, we're just going to go ahead and transfer it to where we scanned it, because that's where it is. Or we start to look at those one at a time and go, wait a minute, you're not supposed to have this. You didn't really have permission to take this on. So we're gonna physically take this tag back to room 5, and then the reconciliation for that tag is to ignore the fact that we scanned it in room 10 because we took it back to room 5, if that makes sense. So the terminology is a little different. But yes, you can use an audit to put things in the right room in the end. Any other questions? Give you guys time to type because I know it takes a while, or you can unmute yourself and just ask. So if you're just scanning a room, so remember I said, hey, that'd be a great idea in the beginning, and every time you walk into a room, you scan something just for the heck of it. Or maybe you're walking through and checking. So I'm just scanning, I'm just checking things out. So my focus up here on my search is going to be tag serial search. And I'm going to go ahead and just plug in the asset number for whatever item that I'm looking for. Well, let's go back to the cart just for the heck of it. So I bring that up, I see the tag information, and here I say, oh, that I'm standing in room 25. That's supposed to be in room 23. I can make my decision right then. Do I transfer the item to room 25 in the software, or do I physically take the cart out of room 25 and put it back in room 23? It depends, right? So if I decide to transfer it towards physically being used, I can just go ahead right here in the tag information window and do the transfer. Oh, I'm at Learning Middle School still. Notice I can't move something that's not at my site. So I'm going to transfer real quick back over to Learning Campus so I can show you how that would work. See, I brought that up and I saw that where it was, even though it wasn't my site that I was in, it's fine. The system will show you where things are and then stop you from doing something you shouldn't. So now I am physically at Learning Campus, and say I'm standing in room 25 and I know this cart is in front of me, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer it. I mean, one thing I can do is say, you're not supposed to have this. I'm taking it back to room 23, and then all is well in the software already. But if I go ahead and need to move it, I'll just go ahead and do that right here. So my change location, I'm going to do a room transfer. Remember, this is a cart with laptops, so I'm going to get the, so I'm standing in room 25. So I'm going to end up getting a message here. I want to make sure that we end up in a status of in use, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the transfer. I'm going to get the components thing that says, hey, this cart has laptops. They're all going to be part of the transfer. And I'm going to say, okay, that's great for me. And there it is. These guys are now in room 25. So if I just if I'm just doing arbitrary scans to check to see if things are recorded correctly, then when I get the item up on the screen, I can go ahead and take the action against it that I want to. What if you find an asset that was assigned to another site? So, and that's what we just did, right? I found that asset. I was at Learning Campus and I found that asset at Learning Middle School. Now we have some processes we need to get a little more involved in. So depending on your district and what you guys decide on, you're either going to do a site-to-site transfer, the way we just did, the initiate transfer and scan it, and you'll actually have to call the other site, right? And say, hey, will you transfer me this particular asset? It's in my building. Or you could get the tag number and just email your district folks and say, hey, can you transfer this to my site? It's in room 10 here at my building. So it's up to you guys how you want to do that. But the person, it's either going to come from the person at the site where the asset is recorded, or it's going to come from the person at the district that will just go ahead and put it in the right place for you. It won't be something you can do. I cannot physically, or I can't go to another site and get their stuff and put it in my site. I have to kind of go through a process to get that done. Great questions, guys. Thank you. So we have a little bit more time. I want to, let's go back in here. So during this time, if you have a moment, we do have a survey on the training and I would appreciate your feedback. Let me put this link in the chat for you. So if you have a moment, I would really appreciate you going to this survey and letting us know, letting me know how I did, letting Hayes know how I did, and providing any feedback if you know, something you would have liked to spend some more time on or see, that just plug it into the comments. That would be great. And we still have about 4 minutes left. So any questions in the meantime, just let me know. Questions or comments, and if you're done, you can go ahead and exit the meeting if you don't want to hang out. If you want to hang out, ask me a question offline. I have a couple of minutes, but we can certainly start a conversation. I do have another training, like almost back to back to this one, but I have a couple of minutes. I can at least get an idea of what you need and follow up. Now it takes me about I don't know, sometime today or tonight before I crash, I will send out the follow-up email and I'll have some links in there for you guys to refer. And Mandy, I will, well, I'll go ahead and add the one that Mandy asked about to everyone's email as well. And thank you guys. Thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Remember these, you guys have access to, you can come to any of these bundle trainings. You can come to just sections of them. Our recordings are out on the support page and the link will be in your follow-up. And those you can just, if you look at them in YouTube, you'll be able to jump to certain areas. Like I'll make a marker where, oh, here's where we start talking about rooms. Here's where we start talking about staff. Here's where we start talking about issuing and stuff like that. So you can look at those anytime as well. And it's not always going to be your recorded session. It could be a different one, which is kind of cool because, you know, I just do this off the cuff sometimes and we get some different conversations. All right. So I don't see any other questions coming in, guys. Thank you very much. We will see you out there, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anna, did you have a specific question?